hardest part about playing Michael is that he doesn't have much to say. He's locked in a room on a station on his own, and he doesn't really have anybody else to talk to. So that was the hardest thing, I think. Michael has to constantly stay awake, so he's injecting stimulants into his body, and he has to do that because if he does fall asleep, then when he's dreaming, the monsters he dreams about will basically appear and kill Paul. And it's such an unusual role to play, and it's become well, there's been a lot of backlash to my career because of it, and I'm struggling to find another job after this one. But it's odd how some people don't want to hire you after you've done something like this, even if you do it really well.
Yeah, when Wanton asked me to play the part of Paul, I admit I was hesitant at first, but it turned out okay. I mean, I was sceptical because of the general lack of dialogue in the whole script, but I was able to create a fine character that the audience could empathise with, so it made it work.
Oh, I'm surprised you asked me. Everyone's seen it, and everyone's heard of it, and there aren't that many people who haven't bought the book. I'm really surprised, actually, that it's become such a classic so quickly. I'm really surprised. Basically, the film's about two guys. One stuck on a planet, being hunted down by the manifestation of his friend's dreams.
I really liked the script, even though there wasn't a lot of lines, as it was mostly watching monitors. And when you're doing that take after take until the director gets exactly what he wants, you can become really bored. And I was bored a lot.
First thing I'd like to say is, I saw the script and I just said, wow. Darius might be a nervous wreck, but he sure knows how to write.
I didn't like how Wanton kept editing the script to match his unhealthy obsession with needles. He changed the parts with the pill stimulants into needle stimulants, and that did not go down well at all.
Personally, I don't like the script. Certain things needed changing, and Daddy changed them and made them better.
Wanton wanted to write a love interest for Paul, and the first day I arrived on set, he jokingly suggested that I was the love interest. And it ended up that the first scene I shot, where I completely misunderstood and thought I was the love interest, actually ended up in the movie. That's a bit embarrassing, to be honest. No.
The script was terrible. It had a few interesting ideas, but Wanton butchered those.
Well, basically, if you've actually seen the movie, which I'm sure all of you actually have, you'll know that later on in the film, Paul is actually attacked by these giant floating cubes, and, you know, it's using state-of-the-art graphics, and what you'd actually think that, but they're not actually made of polygons at all. They're actual models that I created myself, and you know, it's kind of hard. I actually came up with some names for them. One of them's called Greg, the other one's called Mary, so they actually have a special place in my heart, to be honest.
The hardest thing to score was the emotional bits. The bit with the dinosaur and the orb things. What the hell were they?
Well, at another point in the film, you'll see Paul is being attacked by this life-sized Triceratops, which again I created myself, and I made it entirely out of stop motion to make it look as realistic as possible, like the all-time great filmmakers did, like back in the 30s and 40s. And I feel it's the biggest achievement of the whole film. However, it you know, it wasn't used to its full potential, unfortunately. I think it was only in for like a few minutes, which really disappointed me. I feel like more potential could have been brought out of it. So I actually keep it in my basement as a little souvenir now. So yeah, a bit annoying really.
I really like the stop motion Triceratops. It was the highlight of the film for me.
I did like the stop motion dinosaur.
The crowning achievement for me, personally, was actually putting my absolute favourite piece into the film. You know, like, what is the most epic thing that you could actually put into a film? And I was actually given the chance to do it. And that was just going on the theme of the Triceratops, because to be honest, I was quite annoyed with it not being in for more than a few minutes. So I said, you know, Mr. Bates, how about this? You know, so I just threw the idea out there, and the idea was a Tyrannosaurus Rex on top of a shark on wheels. He was like, perfect. Loved it. It was in the film. It was just, oh, absolutely ecstatic about it. I couldn't believe it was in it. But unfortunately, Mr. Bates, once again, took the chance to screw this royally up, because it turned out the model actually got damaged through filmmaking for unknown reasons, which I haven't found yet. And it had to be replaced with a twig with leaves, with big googly eyes on it. Unbelievable.
I was hired to write music to the film, that's all there was to it.
The music was sufficiently awful and added little to the scenes.
Wanton was a believer in real life effects. He would keep his actors up all night with crashing cymbals just to keep them awake. And he would even go to the extent as to ask John to inject himself with real life stimulants.
Wanton Bates is actually a pretty good director. He's not the best I've worked with, but he does get the job done. And he does have a tendency to actually say, I really like what you're doing there, but can you do something completely different? And he's been saying that to me quite a lot. And he also keeps making this joke about me not getting paid, and considering that the checks have bounced twice, I think it is, then I'm now starting to believe him.
I thought Wanton would be the ideal person for the job. The film was a success, so I suppose he was.
Wanton insisted that I stay up for days doing shoots, just so I looked the part. And then when I came in, his makeup people would come along and just touch up anything that my body had left out. I'm not joking, it was really like that.
I was originally hired to play the character which John got, but 2 days before the shooting, Wanton came up to me and he said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I've got another actor in and he's going to be playing the role now instead of you. Which it kind of hurt, you know what I mean? But he said, don't worry, you can stay on, you can work, and you can be the stunt double. And I said, well, how can you get a stunt double for a guy who's going to be in one room, you know? It's ridiculous. He's in one room, he doesn't have any stunts to perform, and yet I'm actually in the film, which is quite surprising. You see, John had an accident. A lot of people say that it's not an accident, but I don't think that Wanton would have put insulin in the needles, personally. I mean, he's a bit crazy, but I don't think he'd go that far. Anyway, John had this accident, and I had to go in and play the part. And so basically I was on the set for a very small time, and they sort of made me up to look like him, and you know, if you look very closely, I think you can just about see the contact lenses. Yeah, you can definitely see the contact lenses. But yeah.
I got on with all the cast. We got on very well. Wanton wanted me on the set at all times, and I think it helped.
John was always nice to me. I did his makeup. He did have a lot of arguments with Daddy, though.
Yeah, funny story about the wig which I had when I played John's character. It was actually John's hair.
Yeah, John wore his own hair as a wig, you can't even tell.
Wanton always wanted Yosef to play Paul, but I think John could have played the part fine.
Now, whilst Wanton had pretty much knocked him out by putting insulin in his in the needle, you know, and making him inject himself with it.
John's a diabetic. It's the first I've heard about it.
Wanton was pissed off. He drove all the way to the hospital after the ambulance and shaved off his hair. He had it made into a wig, and, well, I wore it for the scene and he wore it for the rest of the performance.
Poppycock, John's a diabetic. His hair fell out in hospital due to a lack of sugar. Science has proven that fact, and I'm not qualified to go over it.
I have no idea who put insulin in John's needle. Daddy wouldn't have done it.
The needles which they actually used in the performance, they weren't props. They were real.
I put £50,000 up for the film.
He basically told me that I could have 2% of all the DVD sales. I mean, it had good promotion, so I thought, yeah, sure, I'll take that.
Overall, I'm satisfied with the film. It's out on video and Blu-ray. It's a damn fine film.
I can't imagine him being part of a cult.
Daddy has never tried, and never would try, to get me involved in his cult.
Wanton is a member of a cult?
He used to dress weirdly, but then again, if you sell your soul to an unnamed demigod, what you expect?
I don't know why you decided to interview me. I merely operated the clapperboard.
I feel sorry for her, but she was old enough to know better.
I'm 14 years old.
Wanton had this girl working on the clapperboard. It was very supportive to disabled children. She seemed to like him, and he treated her very, very gently.
Wanton asked if I could find some time to help him with some problems he was having.
Yosef used to pick her up in the mornings. She became quite quiet quite quickly. I didn't talk to her after a while.
Wanton was always really nice to me. He always used to bring me flowers.
Wanton always knew she was 14. He wasn't stupid. It would have been okay if he'd asked me first.
We have budget problems, I'll admit that. Wanton started making underhand deals with the set crew, and basically it ended up with the whole crew taking turns with his wife in the dressing room for 4 weeks. She left him after that, I believe. No, I didn't personally do it. That's what I have an aide for. I don't have time for sex.
I admit it. I slept with Wanton's wife a couple of times. Well, more than a couple, I mean. You might as well take the perks of the job.
There may have been moments when our separate body masses combined in the heat of passion.
She basically had sex with the entire cast and crew, non-stop, 24 hours a day, For 4 weeks. Now, I'm sorry, but, you know, any normal human being would be like, oh my god, that's like the best opportunity ever, that must have been great, but I've not actually been the same since. It's physically traumatised me, man. Can you imagine doing it non-stop, 24 hours a day? Not only would you be bloody knackered, but, oh my god, I don't think I'm going to be able to procreate ever again, man. It was an experience. I don't know whether you'll experience it any time in your life, but I'd actually say no. God knows what it must have done to Mrs. Bates, because, you know, it wasn't just me, it was everybody. I mean, it could have been just the tea maker, you know, just fixing up cups of tea for everyone, and yet there he'd be, rogering her away. God, amazing. Actually, come to think of it, didn't she leave Mr. Bates?
Oh, Polley! She left Wanton, yes. I didn't see that coming.
Mr. Bates, can I have a moment of your time, please?
Look at the camera out of my
Mr. Bates!
I never slept with Wanton's wife. What she gets up to behind the scenes is none of my business. The guy's traumatised, anyone can see that.
People keep asking me questions about Daddy. What's he like? He's been a really good father to me.
Wanton, he only married me for the money. He wasted most of it.
I don't want to know what goes on between my parents. The deals they make are none of my business.
I don't think Polley ever truly understood Wanton. I think the way she treated him was terribly unfair.
I think people should stop judging Daddy. They don't even know him. They don't!
I'm not getting into that.
Oh yes, Wanton loves his needles. He uses them for everything. Eating, drinking, when we used to have sex. He would take blood out of my body and inject it into his, and vice versa. Hemisexual transfer, he called it.
Can we please not talk about this?
Right from the get-go, he actually wanted to take samples of all the cast and crew's blood, which, you know, really freaked me out, to be honest, and you know, he actually had to forcefully strap me down to get the sample out of me because, well, I didn't want anyone taking my blood without my consent, so I don't quite know what happened because, I don't know, I think I might have got chloroformed or something, but when I woke up I had this, I've still got the scar on my arm where he took the sample. But obviously I was, let's just say, a little bit annoyed with that, to be honest, because, you know, that's my blood, I want it back. But, yeah, I was just on set one night doing models, and I just happened to catch this Mr. Bates just in the corner of the set, and I noticed he was actually injecting himself with the samples of blood that he took from us earlier. And this really freaked me out because I've never seen someone actually do this before, and I was like, what is he doing? Is he some sort of lunatic or something, you know, trying to get everyone's life essence? Maybe he feels like he'll become one with the cast and crew by doing it? I don't know, but to be honest, I just hijacked it out of there because I was really freaked out, man. Really freaked out.
John had the nerve to call Daddy insane in the canteen. Daddy isn't insane, he isn't!
Wanton kind of insisted on using needles, and, you know, a lot of people argued against it. They said it would be very bad. Turns out that's the reason the movie was so popular, but nobody wanted to work on it. You know, no one will work with anybody who worked on the film now. It may have been popular, but no one made any money.
To be honest, Wanton ruined the script completely. With his obsession with needles and his boozing and his secret affair of the clapperboard girl, who completely ruined the movie. I mean, Christ, who hires a clapperboard girl with one hand?
Yeah, so what if he did hire a clapperboard girl with just one hand? They did a good job together.
I think people should stop judging Daddy. They don't even know him. They don't!
The ending is quite a shock for the audience because it's so sudden and unexpected. From my character's point of view, he's been awake for over a week, injecting stimulants into him to stop from falling asleep in any way, even like micro naps. You know. And we ended up doing about 30 takes of their death scene. And the one they settled on was the sound of the gas coming into the chamber, my eyes fluttering and then slumping down dead. It's not really a very heroic ending, and it's pretty unfair, to be honest, but I quite enjoyed it. It worked for me.
My favourite part of the film was the end credits. It was a pleasant thing to wake up to.
I'm happy to be a part of it.
People always complain when a film comes out. It doesn't really matter what the content is.
There's a lot of hatred flying around for no reason, and people have to respect that sorting things out financially is hard.
Well, how do you think I feel? I'm devastated. It's just completely ruined my life. I mean, this was the best opportunity I had to show what I was capable of, and he took it away from me. And I'll never get that opportunity again. To be honest, I'll never actually forgive Mr. Bates for what he's done, and I don't think anyone will.
I enjoyed scoring the film. It's one of the best films I've ever worked for. It was an honour to work on it.
I don't believe in freedom of speech. It's a good concept, but people exploit it. I think that's what Darius was trying to say, and I support that completely.